Years had passed since the fires of the colonial purge, and change had layered itself over land and life. Where sacred groves once whispered in emerald shadows, missionary hospitals now stood in whitewashed certainty. Doctors in spotless coats carried stethoscopes instead of charms. Birth, once a song with rhythms of breath and song, had become a clinical event measured by time, blood pressure, and pulse. Yet, beneath sterile sheets and clipped language, women still whispered the old words when they labored, shaping invisible blessings with their lips, while syringes gleamed under electric light. Alaoma had been taken on as an assistant nurse at the missionary hospital in Onitsha. She swept floors, watched instruments, and took notes in English, a language still foreign upon her tongue. But her eyes saw what others missed. One morning, a woman in labor moaned, the pain etched deep in her voice. A nurse backed orders, reprimanding the mother for making noise. Christian women must be strong, she said, her voice sharp as cracked glass. Alaoma moved beside the laboring woman, heart aching. She took her hand and whispered, "Breathe with me. Bí ọmọ bá dé, kó mórí rẹ̀." The woman's body found a rhythm again, and moments later, a healthy baby came, crying and alive. The British matron frowned at Alaoma. "What did you say to her?" Alaoma smiled faintly. "Only a prayer, ma'am, the same my mother sang." That night, Alaoma wrote in her notebook, "The herbs heal the body, the songs heal the spirit, signs measure the first, but not the second." Far to the north, Maka was old and fading. She could no longer travel, but the desert wind still carried her voice. Alaoma wrote her letters on brown paper. "Mother Maka, today I held the baby born too early. The doctor said she would not survive. I mixed away her cocoa and shea, as you have taught me, and rubbed it along her tiny spine. She breathed again. They called it a miracle, called it memory. Alaoma." Weeks later, a reply arrived, carried by a traveler from Kano. "Child of the earth, the desert remembers you. Keep learning their medicine, but never forget the one written in your blood. When rivers and sand meet, the world will be healed. Maka." At docks, Alaoma opened the wooden chest she had carved herself. Inside were two sets of tools. One side held a stethoscope, thermometer, bottles labeled quinine and morphine. The other contained dried leaves, roots, calabashes of oil, and a small clay figure of Oya, goddess of transformation. Each morning before work, she touched both sides and whispered, "Let the sacred and the scientific serve one purpose, healing." The other nurses often mocked her quiet rituals, but when birth grew complicated, it was Alaoma they called. One night, a European doctor approached her after rounds. "You seem to do something different," he admitted. "I can't explain it, but mothers calm down when you enter." Alaoma replied simply, "Perhaps they remember the ancient rhythm." On a rain-soaked night, a woman arrived in labor with twins, Ibeji. The hospital staff panicked. Among some missionaries, twins were still seen as omens of danger or misfortune. The matron refused responsibility for the high-risk delivery, but Alaoma stepped forward. "In our stories," she said gently, "twins are not a curse, they are joy. One for the earth, one for the sky." She guided the birth, chanting softly beneath steady breath. When the first twin cried, thunder rumbled distant and deep. When the second followed, lightning split the sky. She wrapped them in white clothes and turned to the frightened nurses. "Behold," she said, "life doubled. Not cost, but entire." From that night on, she was called the twin midwife. Her renown spread quietly across villages, across hospital wards. She had become in her own time what Nkiruka once had been, a woman who walked between realms. When others saw contradiction, Alaoma saw connection. She learned to read the white man's books without forgetting the forest songs. In her hands, scalpel and shea butter coexisted. Prayers and prescription walked the same road. And when she taught younger nurses, she told them, Every cure begins with listening to the body, to the spirit, to the land. Thus, in the quiet weaving of old and new, Alaoma's legacy became not a choice between worlds, but the recognition that healing is always more than one thing, a river born from many springs, flowing toward wholeness.